bumpy out here, so I ask that you guys remain seated at all times, and also be sure to keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck as well. A lot of the trees and bushes, once we move out here, do have some thorns, and I don't want you guys taking home any unwanted souvenirs. I promise you they're really not that nice. They're a lot less nice when you have to take them out of your body as well. Up above your head is an animal spotting guide, a good sign of some of the animals we'll have a chance of seeing out here today. However, due to different migration patterns and different sleeping habits, we might not see everything on the list, but typically pretty good luck out there. This is a photo safari though, so if you guys want to take pictures of what we do see, just have your cameras and phones out and ready for pictures. Putting them into a sports or an action setting, anything with a higher shutter speed is going to be your best bet. As we're on the move a lot today, so those higher shutter speeds will help to reduce a lot of the blur of the movement that's happening around us. If you happen to have those out though, or any other loose items, just be sure to hold on to them very tightly, because unfortunately if anything is to drop out of the truck, I am not allowed to stop and get out to grab that for you. I do, however, have a radio, and I will be able to make a call for someone to go find those for us. It's just, we can't promise that they're returned in the exact same condition as when they're first dropped, just due to all the free-roaming wild animals. They might get to it before we get to it. Seems like we've just entered into the Little Ituri Forest. Keep your eyes peeled. Over on the right side, it does look like there's an okapi just out there. A lot of people look at that okapi and see the stripes on its legs and automatically assume that this is related to a zebra, which I can understand why you would think that, but it's actually not. It's the closest and only known living relative of a giraffe. They have pretty similar neck and skull structures, and then they both have what's known as a prehensile tongue as well. About 18 inches long, good for browsing on trees and bushes. Just over on the left, a few bongo, which is actually an antelope species. The bongo, also nicknamed the ghost of the forest, because they're typically pretty well hidden behind a lot of that brush. Their push-back horns do allow them to move freely through the brush without getting stuck, and just one thing that helps them to live up to that nickname. On the left, there's a pretty good-sized watering hole, so that's typically a good sign for animals to come out for a drink. Down at the end of the first wall, it looks like there might be something, but a little bit easier, it seems like there's another black rhino just right down here. Now, black rhino get to be around 3,000 pounds with 2-inch thick skin, and they don't have any natural predators. However, unfortunately, there are less than 5,000 of them left in the whole entire world due to poaching. In fact, they're poached for their horns, which some cultures think to have a medicinal value, but it's actually made out of keratin, which is something you can find on your own fingernails and hair. So I think we all know there's no medicinal value to it. We are trying to help out, though, by spreading the word, educating as many people as possible. Hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll be able to stop the poaching. Now, as we move along, it seems like we just left the forest and we're heading out towards the Safi River. Safi River is home to some of the most deadliest animals here in Africa, so we just need to be a bit careful around here. Just over on the back side of the water, you might be able to notice a couple of Nile hippopotamus. And if you can't see them, hopefully as we move along, we'll be able to catch up to some other ones so that everyone has a better chance at seeing them. But hippos do spend a majority of their day in the water, just like you might be able to see back there. They can even stay underwater for about 8 minutes before coming up for air. Over here on the left side, there's actually a couple of them in the water here as well. A group of hippos is known as a bloat, pretty fittingly enough, because a baby hippo is born around 85 pounds and a fully grown male gets to be over 5,000 pounds. The birds in the center island, the gray and white ones, are pink-backed pelicans, and they get their name from a pink back that they develop during their mating season. They're fairly large size as well, with a 9-foot wide wingspan. Now, unfortunately we don't hear it right now, but hippos do communicate with what is known as a wheeze honk. Sounds just like that, a wheeze and a honk, and it's individual to each and every one of them. At night they kind of perform it like a roll call, where the most dominant hippo wheeze honks first and they all follow along right after. Here on our left are some Nile crocodile. Now, Nile crocodile on average are around 16 feet long and weighing around 500 pounds. They have been known to eat half their body weight in just one meal and can bite down in the course of about 5,000 pounds. They've got some softer qualities to them, though. Both males and females have been known to roll eggs in their mouth to help them hatch. And the females also have a kind of a throat pouch, so if they feel like they're young or in danger, they have them go into the pouch for protection till the threat is gone. But if you ask me, there's one too many teeth in a mouth like that. I feel like it's a safe idea, but it does seem to be working for them, so to each his own. Now, it seems like we've changed ecosystems again. Looks like we're heading into the Serengeti grasslands, or also the savanna. This is home to many different species of animals, so it'll be a great opportunity for us to hopefully see quite a few things. Bunch of diversity out here. Now, the name Serengeti Grasslands is quite obvious with the amount of grass that is out here. If you notice some taller patches of grass, now that's going to be a place where predators are going to hide, especially at night while they're hunting. However, not really leaving a lot of space for the prey to be able to hide. Oftentimes, you'll see a lot of different species all kind of sitting together in one large herd, and they're just protecting themselves all together, kind of like a protection by numbers. In the center of the herd, they'll be able to sleep throughout the night, and then on the outer ridge, or the outer side of it there, they'll all face out in different directions to keep an eye out in the different areas. They can trade off as well so that others get to sleep. Here on the left are some African wild dogs. Now, African wild dogs are also known as painted dogs. However, oftentimes they're confused for hyenas, yet they are nowhere near related. They're in their own group, the hyenas. These painted dogs are some of the most successful hunters here in Africa. They catch over 90% of what they hunt, which is way better than a lion or a cheetah. Thankfully, they're not making their calls, though, or you'd never believe me about how vicious they are, as ironically, their call kind of sounds like a squeaky toy. Over on the left are some sable antelope. Those are the emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, but you probably noticed their horns are actually a bit curved back. That helps to deter predators from jumping on their backs. The ends of those are pretty sharp, and all they need to do is tilt their head back to be stabbing into anything on their back. Now, these termite mounds here in the area can get upwards of 30 feet tall, made out of saliva, dirt, and dung, and they do bake in the sun all day long, so they can actually get almost as hard as cement, good enough just for an elephant to use as a scratching post. As we come along here, it looks like there's quite a few things out here in this open area. There are definitely quite a few giraffe, which, fittingly enough for how tall a giraffe is, a group of them is known as a tower. They are the tallest land mammal in the world at about 18 to 20 feet tall, fully grown. Now, baby giraffe, which it looks like there's actually a few young ones out here, are born around 6 feet tall, so it's a pretty good size from the start. Females give birth standing up, so they do drop about 6 feet down to the ground. Holy cattle. The springbok are the tan with the dark stripe in the middle and the white just out there, which are in the top 10 fastest land mammal, traveling at a speed of 50 to 60 miles per hour. The Ankole cattle are the ones with the huge horns. They get to be around 3 to 4 feet long, but there's a honeycomb structure inside of them or a lot of holes allowing blood to flow through, helping to keep them cool. And then the white-bearded wildebeest are the gray things that kind of sit down looking like rocks, which if you've seen The Lion King, you might recognize them as the animal that chased after Mufasa and Simba. If you remember how many of them there were after them, it won't be coming as a surprise as they're the second most densely populated mammal in the world behind us as humans, recorded in numbers of up to 1.5 million. It does look like we might be heading over here towards elephant territory though, because there's a lot of knockdown trees. So keep your eyes peeled. This area is also known as Monkey Point for the troop of mandrill monkeys that have been known to be seen around here as well. But I do see an African elephant out here on the right side, just past the brush. You might not see it yet. There's also mandrill monkeys back there that might be harder to see as it's going farther and farther back. Now I know it's an African elephant over here just because of their ears. Their ears are quite large, much larger than an Asian elephant's ears, and their shape is actually pretty similar to the shape of Africa. Their ears are useful to help keep themselves cool. If you look back, you'll be able to see. Moving them back and forth kind of fans them off, lowering their temperature 15 degrees Fahrenheit, but then also they can keep cool by putting mud onto their skin. So their sensitive skin, they can get sunburns just like you and I. So mud's actually like a natural sunblock for them, but also a nice protective coat. Now that elephant was out there by itself, it seems like, which is actually a pretty good sign that that is an adult male bull elephant. When they hit their adolescence, around age 12 to 13, is when they'll tend to leave the herd, and then they go off on their own and remain pretty solitary throughout the rest of their life. They sometimes can be found in smaller bachelor groups, but for the most part they're off on their own. They will return to the herd once in a while, but that's only for mating reasons, and once they're done with what they need to do, they will leave again. This red clay is a source of minerals for elephants, so maybe they've come by here not too long ago. I am noticing some tusk marks, so that's actually a pretty good sign. And then some tracks heading on over here towards the left as well. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled. You could have probably also guessed that if the males leave, the herd is going to consist of the adult females and their young. Now throughout the day, they are more than welcome to wander around. In fact, a couple of them can leave the herd if they want throughout the day and go visit another herd. Maybe has other family members and friends in there. But just like having their very own curfew at night, they're actually going to make sure to come back to their own respective herds for protection through nightfall. Keep your eyes peeled over on the right side. You might see a giraffe over here and some Ankole cattle and the wildebeest. If you look back out towards the left, kind of straight in front of us, it seems like we did catch up to a herd of elephants. I see at least 3 out there. In fact, there might even be a baby elephant right by that rock as well. Now, unfortunately, though, elephants are also poached, just like the black rhino. Elephants are poached for their tusks, which are made out of ivory, and it's said that we lose around 96 elephants a day, unfortunately. A simple way to help out, though, is to make sure that you do not buy any products containing ivory. If we do work to decrease the demand, we can decrease the price, so that hopefully poachers won't want to poach anymore, just because they won't make as much money from it. Here on the left are some flamingos, which these actually are greater flamingos, the lightest pink species and also the largest. When they are first hatched, though, they're gray, they're not quite pink just yet. Their coloring comes from eating brine shrimp, which contains a protein known as beta-carotene. And by By the way, the giraffe that we've been seeing are Maasai giraffe. I can tell just from looking at their spots, as they have very jagged, irregular spot pattern to them there. Seems like the wardens caught some of those poachers. If you notice there on the left, there's some confiscated tusks and horns. So it's good to know that we've stopped at least a couple of them. On the left over here, there's a pretty good sized mud wallow. So animals like to roll around in mud, just like I mentioned with elephants. Other animals will do the exact same thing. In fact, rolling around in the mud just to keep themselves cool or even just to protect their skin. Now, inside of the bushes over on the right side, there might be what was rolling around in that mud. And then over up top on this hill coming to our left, there's a cheetah roaming around.
Ooh, a cheetah!
The cheetah just went back behind the rocks, so hopefully it'll come back into view for you guys. But over on the right side, there's also some white rhinos laying down. White rhinos are a lot larger than a black rhino, getting around 5,000 pounds, and unfortunately have the exact same horns as a black rhino, so they're also poached. Now, the cheetah, being the fastest land mammal, going 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds, they don't run for very long, maybe the length of a football field at most. In fact, it looks like there's even some more cheetah just out here laying down by that tree. And there's another one back there in that brush. They do have very long tails, helping to guide them through their turns, and then black marks that reach from their eyes down to their mouth, helping to reflect the sun and keeping that out of their eyes while they hunt as well. Now just out here on these hunting rocks, which are also known as Kobe rocks, there's actually a few lions just out here. In fact, I see a male and a female, which the difference you can tell is because of the male having a large mane around his head, all of that additional hair. Now, in a pride of lions, there's typically one adult male, and the rest will be adult females and their young. It looks like that's an adult male and an adult female. Now, to see them both awake is pretty impressive. They'll typically sleep all day long. It looks like there's another female actually just laying down next to them. She's actually asleep. They sleep 20 hours of the day because they're active at night. The male will stay back at night protecting the pride, letting out a large roar heard about 5 miles away. This way they can set a territory. Then the females will go out and hunt in that area. Their vision's pretty similar to ours during the day, however at night it enhances 6 times to help them see through the dark. Now, it also looks like there's some warthogs here in the area. Might be a little hard to point out, but if you look to the left of the tree over by the rocks that have the green covering on them, yeah, there's some warthogs laying out there. They're the largest burrowing animal in Africa. When they're in their burrows, they actually back into them so that their tusks are sticking out. This way they have a defense for themselves if anything is to creep up on them. Now, over here on the right side, we can see the white rhino again, and then there's actually a couple of other things. These 2 brown and white antelope are known as bontebok, closely related to wildebeest, but unfortunately extinct in the wild. They're only found on reserves like this due to overhunting. In fact, one time it was said that they were overhunted to their complete extinction, but a farmer found a group of about 17 of them and helped to protect them so that they're now on reserves. 3 female ostrich are out here as well, and I know that they're female because their feather color is gray instead of black like males. Down there, which are pretty impressive eggs, they get to be around 3 pounds, equivalent to 2 dozen chicken eggs. They're strong enough for someone to stand on top of and they would not break. If you happen to look at the ostrich's eyes while we were over there though, you might have noticed how large they are, and in fact their eyes are larger than their brains. Now, it does look like we're heading into the final part of the reserve here. This is known as Magadi Glen. Now, reserves like this are around to help out conserve different wildlife species, just like the Bonsbach that we just saw back there over by the ostrich and everything. They're protected on land like this, but other things that can happen are things called species survival plans or reintroduction plans. Both of those are just helping dwindling wildlife populations. So when numbers that reach really low, they can actually bring a few of those species onto the reserves to help repopulate them so that they can bring more stable numbers back out into the wild. Now, unfortunately, it does look like the Warden's Post is coming up ahead, which does mean our safari is coming to an end. I would like to say Asante Sana, which does mean thank you, and thank you guys so much for choosing Kilimanjaro Safaris as your African adventure for the day. If you're interested to help out conserve any of the wildlife that we saw out here, or maybe some we didn't see, back at home, always remember to reduce, reuse, and recycle. You can actually look into your area and see if your county has any recycling programs, or you can do some small things like just bringing in a reusable grocery bag to the grocery store instead of using their paper and plastic bags. That's actually started to get some discounts at stores where they'll give you a small price of 5 cents, at least is what I've usually seen, off each bag that you bring. And then you can also start to bring reusable cups and straws into different places where you get beverages. They've been starting to give out discounts for bringing in the reusable cups as well. And it reduces a lot of the plastic waste that's going into oceans and landfills. You can start small at home too, just by turning off the water when brushing your teeth, or even just turning off lights when you leave a room. Now, if you guys are interested in seeing any more animals out here today, I could suggest to come back for another safari, as no 2 safaris will ever be the same, and the animals definitely make sure about that one. Or you can go to the 2 walking trails here in the park. One in Africa here is known as Gorilla Falls, where you might be able to see gorillas, including a baby gorilla. And then there's also an opportunity